247 hours. Caribbean Sea. 380 kilometers from the Colombian coast? A radar operator locked onto something moving fast. Too fast for commercial traffic. Contact bearing 095, speed 45 knots. The screen showed a vessel. No transponder, no registration, running dark across international waters. Whatever was on that boat, someone didn't want it found. 3 weeks earlier, an intelligence network spanning 5 agencies picked up chatter. The DEA intercepted encrypted communications between cartel operatives in Medellin and distribution networks in Miami. The FBI cross-referenced financial transactions. Navy intelligence tracked unusual maritime patterns along known trafficking corridors. The pattern was clear. A major shipment was coming. The cargo, over 2 tons of pure cocaine, street value approaching $100 million, enough to flood American cities for months, enough to destroy thousands of lives. The cartels had refined their methods over decades. They used modified speedboats called go-fasts, vessels stripped of everything except engines and fuel tanks. These boats could reach speeds over 50 knots, making them nearly impossible to intercept using conventional methods. But this time, something was different. The intelligence was precise. Date, route, approximate departure window. The cartels had become confident, maybe too confident. United States authorities assembled a response unlike anything the smugglers expected. This wasn't just Coast Guard patrol boats. This was full military coordination. The FBI provided the initial intelligence framework. The DEA contributed years of cartel surveillance data. The Navy positioned assets strategically across the interdiction zone. The Coast Guard prepared boarding teams trained specifically for hostile maritime encounters. They called it Operation Ocean Strike. The command center activated on a Tuesday morning. Banks of monitors displayed real-time satellite feeds, radar coverage, maps, weather patterns, and vessel tracking data. Officers from 4 different agencies worked shoulder to shoulder. Every screen told part of the story. Every data point mattered. The waiting began. Intelligence suggested the shipment would move within a 72-hour window. After that, the opportunity would vanish. The cocaine would disappear into the American drug distribution network. Impossible to track, impossible to stop. 48 hours passed. Nothing. Then, at 2:31 hours on day 3, a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft detected thermal signatures consistent with high-performance engines. The aircraft banked hard, dropping to lower altitude for visual confirmation. Through infrared imaging, the crew saw it, a sleek vessel, roughly 40 feet long, cutting through moderate seas at extraordinary speed. No lights, no markings, heading northeast toward U.S. territorial waters. The pilot radioed coordinates to the command center. Possible target identified, requesting guidance for intercept. The decision took seconds. Every agency representative gave authorization. The operation was live. A Navy destroyer positioned 200 miles north received the alert. The USS Halsey, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, turned hard to starboard. Its radar systems immediately acquired the target. The Combat Information Center calculated intercept vectors. But a destroyer, despite its power, couldn't match the go-fast boat's maneuverability in these conditions. They needed something faster, something more precise. 2 Coast Guard cutters altered course from patrol positions 85 miles away. These vessels carried rigid-hull inflatable boats capable of pursuit in rough seas. But even they would struggle to match the smugglers' speed. The command center made the call. They launched the helicopter. A MH-60 Seahawk lifted from the destroyer's flight deck at 3:12 hours. The aircraft carried a crew of 4, including 2 precision marksmen trained in maritime interdiction tactics. Their mission: disable the target vessel's engines without killing anyone aboard. The helicopter accelerated to maximum speed, rotor blades cutting through salt air. Below, the Caribbean stretched dark and vast. Somewhere in that darkness, millions of dollars worth of cocaine raced toward American shores. The Poseidon maintained overwatch, feeding updated coordinates every 90 seconds. The go-fast boat was pushing its engines to the limit. Thermal imaging showed excessive heat signatures. They were burning fuel at an unsustainable rate. Inside the helicopter, the crew prepared. The marksmen checked their rifles. loaded with specialized ammunition designed to penetrate engine blocks without causing catastrophic explosions. Every shot had to count. One mistake could sink the boat, destroying evidence and potentially killing the crew. The pilot's voice came through the headsets, visual contact in 2 minutes. At 3:31 hours, the helicopter closed to within 800 meters. Searchlights illuminated the water below. The go-fast boat appeared as a white streak against black water, throwing spray 15 feet into the air. The smugglers saw the helicopter. The boat lurched violently to port, then starboard, attempting evasive maneuvers. They knew what was coming. The Seahawk matched every turn. The pilot held position 200 feet above the surface, fighting rotor wash and sea spray. The marksmen braced against their restraints, sighting through their optics. "Steady," the crew chief called. The first shot rang out at 3:34 hours. The round struck the port engine cowling. Sparks exploded from the impact point. The boat's speed dropped by 5 knots. The smugglers didn't stop. They pushed the remaining engine harder. Second shot, direct hit on the starboard fuel line. Smoke began trailing from the stern. The boat zigzagged desperately, but physics worked against them. The damaged engines couldn't maintain speed through the turns. The helicopter held position, relentless. Third shot. Fourth shot. Both engines took critical damage. At 3:38 hours, the go-fast boat began losing power. Speed dropped to 30 knots, then 20, then 15. The smugglers made one final decision. If they couldn't escape, they'd destroy the evidence. Figures moved frantically on the boat's deck. Through the helicopter's camera, the Coast Guard boarding team approaching in rigid hull boats watched as packages began hitting the water. Dozens of them, each wrapped in waterproof material, each containing pure cocaine. The smugglers were dumping the cargo. All units, suspects, are destroying evidence. Repeat, dumping cargo overboard. The helicopter descended lower, spotlight locked on the vessel. The rotor wash turned the surrounding water into chaos. Packages bobbed in the turbulent surface, some sinking, others floating in the searchlight's beam. The Coast Guard boats closed from 2 directions. Armed boarding teams stood ready, weapons trained on the go-fast boat. The standard warning blared through loudspeakers in both English and Spanish. United States Coast Guard, cut your engines, prepare to be boarded! The smugglers had no choice. The engines sputtered, smoking, and destroyed. The boat drifted dead in the water. At 3:47 hours, Coast Guard officers climbed aboard the disabled vessel. 4 men lay prone on the deck, hands behind their heads. None resisted. They knew the game was over. The boarding team secured the suspects within minutes. Standard procedure: handcuffs, pat-down searches, identification checks. All 4 were Colombian nationals with previous trafficking-related arrests. But the real work was just beginning. The cocaine packages floating in the water represented evidence. Every single one needed recovery before ocean currents scattered them across miles of open sea. The destroyer arrived on scene at 4:15 hours, adding more searchlights and recovery crews. Sailors in small boats began the painstaking process of collecting packages from the water. The work continued through sunrise. As dawn broke over the Caribbean, the full scope of the seizure became clear. Package after package lined the destroyer's deck. Each one tested positive for cocaine. Pure cocaine, the kind that would be cut dozens of times before reaching street dealers. The final count took hours. 4,475 pounds. Over 2 tons. Exactly as intelligence had predicted. Forensic analysts examined the packaging. Professional grade, triple sealed, marked with cartel symbols that DEA agents recognized immediately. This shipment came from one of the most sophisticated trafficking organizations operating in South America. The wholesale value exceeded $100 million, but the street value, after cutting and distribution, would have been 3 to 4 times higher. This single interdiction prevented millions of individual doses from entering American cities. The lead FBI agent ran the numbers. Based on average cocaine potency and typical distribution patterns, this seizure potentially prevented thousands of overdoses. It disrupted supply chains that would take months to rebuild. It sent a message to every cartel operating in the region: your shipments aren't safe, not anywhere. The 4 smugglers faced immediate federal charges: drug trafficking, operating an unregistered vessel, resisting federal officers. Each charge carried mandatory minimum sentences. Their cooperation would determine whether they spent 15 years in prison or 30. Initial interrogations provided valuable intelligence. The suspects revealed details about departure points, supply chain logistics, and payment structures. The DEA cross-referenced this information with existing case files. New connections emerged, new targets identified. The Go-Fast boat itself became evidence. Navy engineers photographed every inch. The modified engines, stripped interior, and hidden compartments all told the story of cartel engineering sophistication. After documentation, the vessel was scuttled as a navigation hazard. It sank in 4,000 feet of water. The cocaine underwent formal processing. DEA chemists analyzed samples. Purity levels exceeded 90%, unusually high for a maritime shipment. This suggested the cartels were confident in their distribution network. They didn't need to pre-cut the product. They expected it to arrive intact. Law enforcement held a press conference 72 hours after the interdiction. Department of Defense officials stood alongside DEA, FBI, and Coast Guard representatives. The message was coordinated and clear. Multi-agency cooperation works. Maritime drug trafficking faces unprecedented resistance. But away from cameras, the real analysis continued. Intelligence officers studied communication patterns leading up to the shipment. Financial investigators traced money transfers. The single bust opened multiple investigation threads. Within weeks, authorities executed raids in 3 countries: cartel financial facilitators in Panama, distribution coordinators in Honduras, money launderers in Miami. The ripple effects from one maritime interdiction cascaded through the entire trafficking network. Operation Ocean Strike became a blueprint. Other agencies studied the coordination model. The combination of long-range surveillance, precision interdiction, and multi-agency cooperation proved devastating against even sophisticated smuggling operations. The cartels adjusted their tactics. Some attempted deeper water routes. Others tried semi-submersible vessels. But American maritime interdiction capabilities continued evolving. New radar systems, better aircraft, enhanced intelligence sharing. The numbers told the story. In the 18 months following Operation Ocean Strike, maritime cocaine interdictions increased by 40%, total seizure amounts exceeded previous records, street prices for cocaine rose in major American cities, basic economics of reduced supply. For the agencies involved, the operation validated years of investment in coordination infrastructure, the FBI's intelligence networks, the DEA's cartel expertise, the Navy's surveillance technology, the Coast Guard's interdiction capabilities. Separately, each agency was effective. Together, they became overwhelming. The 4 smugglers eventually accepted plea agreements. They provided testimony against higher-level cartel operatives. Their information contributed to additional arrests, additional seizures, and additional disruption of trafficking networks. The lead prosecutor called it one of the most significant maritime drug cases in recent history. Not just because of the dollar value, not just because of the quantity seized, but because of what it represented. Multiple agencies, multiple capabilities, unified mission, the kind of coordination that drug trafficking organizations couldn't overcome. The footage is real, the stakes are real. This is how America fights back against international drug trafficking. Subscribe for more operations like this.